5:17 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The first warning does not come through the radio. It comes from the water. On the bridge of the U.S. destroyer, one surface contact that had been drifting slowly suddenly swings hard and accelerates. Then a second does the same. Then a third. 3 fast tracks, all coming from the north, all tightening toward the narrow shipping lane, as if they had been waiting for the exact same moment. Inside the Combat Information Center, the radar picture becomes sharper. 3 surface contacts, bearing 031, speed increasing. The destroyer is already deep inside one of the most compressed stretches of water on the planet, conducting a lawful transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Merchant ships are spaced ahead and behind. To starboard, the water is open but exposed. To port, the coastline sits low and brown beneath the early morning haze. There is no spare room here, no wasted distance, no margin for a wrong guess. At first, the contacts look small. Then their speed rises again. 28 knots. That gets everyone's attention. On the bridge, nobody panics. No one raises their voice. The captain steps closer to the tactical repeater, studies the closing angles for a single second, then gives the order in the same calm tone he might use to adjust course. Hail them once. Record everything. Maintain course. The radio operator transmits bridge to bridge. Unidentified vessels. This is a United States warship in international transit. You are closing at unsafe speed. Alter course immediately. No reply. Below, in CIC, the mood shifts without anyone needing to say it. This is no longer routine tracking. This is controlled risk management. Track numbers are assigned. Bearings update every few seconds. The estimated closest point of approach begins shrinking fast. CPA, under 4 nautical miles. The electronic warfare team starts logging signals. At first, it is just the usual coastal noise, commercial traffic, harbor systems, background clutter. Then one shoreline radar sweeps across the destroyer again, sharper this time, more deliberate. Not a fixed lock. Not yet. But it no longer feels casual. On the starboard bridge wing, a lookout raises his binoculars. Visual contact, 3 fast craft, low profile, personnel visible topside. That is the first human confirmation. The rising sun catches the white spray breaking from the bows of the incoming boats. They are not fishing vessels. They are not lost civilians. Their hulls are narrow, aggressive, built for speed, with dark deck-mounted shapes forward and amidships. Even at a distance, their posture says the same thing their speed already said. They are not here simply to pass. The officer of the deck orders the forward camera to zoom in. The image sharpens on a repeater screen. 3 Iranian fast craft, weaving just enough to stay unpredictable, but not enough to hide their direction. Straight toward the destroyer. The call goes back into CIC. Confirmed. Iranian fast craft, multiple personnel topside. Forward, the destroyer's main deck system rotates a few degrees off centerline. Not enough to provoke, just enough to be noticed. On another deck, the close-in defense system powers into standby. Its white dome remains still for now. Waiting. The defense teams do not run. They do not need to. On a ship like this, readiness is already built into the steel. Another radio warning goes out, firmer this time. Iranian vessels, you are approaching a United States Navy ship at unsafe distance. Alter course now. Still nothing. The destroyer holds her line through the channel, her wake straight and controlled behind her. That matters. Every sailor on board understands why. In a place like Hormuz, the first ship to overreact can lose the narrative, even if it controls the encounter. Then one of the Iranian boats breaks formation. It surges ahead of the other 2 and angles down toward the destroyer's starboard bow. Fast. Too fast for a routine shadow. Its wake sharpens into a bright white blade across the water. On the bridge, heads turn toward the windows. On the video feed, one man near the bow mount steadies himself with one hand while keeping the other close to the equipment beside him. CPA now 2.6. That number hangs in the air. Another coastal signal flashes across the EW board. Narrower, more focused. The electronic warfare officer leans over his console, listening through his headset as if the signal might reveal its intention. We're being painted from shore. Search mode may be tightening. He does not say what everyone is already thinking. He does not have to. Up on the bridge, the captain watches the lead Iranian boat swallow the distance. The second and third craft spread wider now. One holds outside, the other slides aft as if building angles around the destroyer. This is not random movement, not theater. Coordination. That is when the captain gives the next order. Set condition 3. Man key stations. Across the ship, steel doors open. Boots hit the ladder wells in quick, controlled rhythm. Sailors move with speed, but not with panic. This is the moment training was built for. The helm stays steady. The engines respond cleanly. The destroyer does not turn away. Outside, the lead Iranian craft keeps coming. The range drops again. The shoreline radar sweeps across the ship with more intensity. And in the pale first light over Hormuz, with 3 fast boats closing in and the coast waking behind them, the morning no longer feels like a normal transit. It feels like a setup. 5:21 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The lead Iranian fast craft does not reduce speed. It cuts straight across the destroyer's starboard bow at a distance so close that every man on the bridge can make out the hull number through the spray. Its wake erupts outward in a white burst, rolling hard beneath the destroyer's forward shoulder. Coffee trembles in a console cup holder. A lookout catches the rail. No one says it out loud. That was intentional. CPA 1.2 nautical miles, CIC reports. Then the second Iranian boat moves wider to starboard, dropping back just enough to create space. The third slides aft, matching the destroyer's pace from a lower angle, hanging near the quarter as if searching for a blind spot that simply is not there. In less than half a minute, the geometry changes. This is no longer only a close approach, it is something tighter. A partial bracket. On the bridge, the captain watches the pattern form. "They're building angles," the tactical action officer says over the circuit. For a moment, no answer comes back. The captain looks through the forward glass, following the lead craft as it skips across the chop. Then his eyes shift to the repeater, where the 3 wakes now draw a loose hook around the American ship's starboard side. Below, in CIC, the picture grows heavier by the second. Surface tracks, coastal emissions, merchant traffic farther south. There is no room for confusion. Every movement has to be separated, marked, and understood. The destroyer's radar holds the surface picture steady, while the electro-optical feed zooms tighter on the nearest Iranian hull. Crew on deck, helmets, dark vests, a shielded forward mount, tube-shaped fixtures aft. Maybe launch rails, maybe not. At this distance, maybe is already enough. The bridge-to-bridge radio crackles again. "Iranian fast craft, this is United States warship. Your maneuvers are unsafe. Alter course immediately." Silence. Then, for the first time, a voice answers from the water. Male, flat, Farsi-accented English. "U.S. warship, you are approaching Iranian security zone. Change course south immediately." The words are sharp, but the timing matters more. As the transmission ends, the lead boat cuts closer again, as if the radio call had only been there to buy a few more seconds of movement. On the destroyer's starboard wing, a lookout speaks without lowering his binoculars. Crewman on the lead craft is standing by the forward mount. For half a breath, the air seems to stop. Inside CIC, the electronic warfare officer looks up from his console. Shore radar sweep is tightening, still not a clean lock. The captain gives one small nod. "Launch the helo." On the flight deck, the order lands like a switch thrown inside the ship. The MH-60R Seahawk has already been waiting on alert, blades folded, crew nearby. Now the tie-down chains come off fast. Deck crew move in low, quick bursts. Rotor blades spread. The turbine whine rises from a low hum into a hard metallic howl that cuts through the morning air. On the bridge, no one turns to look aft. They know what is happening by sound alone. The lead Iranian craft surges again, closer now. Spray lifts from its bow and flashes in the sunlight like broken glass. Range, 1,800 yards. The destroyer's forward deck system is trained and ready. Not used, not even close, but visible, unmistakable. The close-in defense mount comes fully awake, shifting with slow mechanical precision. The ship is done pretending this is routine. Then the Seahawk lifts. Rotor wash tears across the flight deck and rolls out over the water. Within seconds, the helicopter slides off the port side. Nose is low, then banks hard across the destroyer's bow, crossing left to right directly into the Iranian boat's line of sight. Its gray body cuts through the dawn haze, low over the sea, fast, controlled, confident. Inside the helicopter, the sensor operator brings the lead craft into sharp focus. The cockpit stays quiet. The pilot keeps the Seahawk low and steady, not making a show of it, but taking position exactly where it needs to be. This is not a warning pass for cameras. It is a deliberate move into the space the Iranian boats have been trying to control. Back on the bridge, the tactical picture changes again. Air asset on station. The Seahawk slides ahead of the nearest Iranian craft and holds just off its path, forcing every man on that boat to look up. A green visual marker flickers across the lead boat's bridge windows. Non-harmful, impossible to ignore. The loud hailer message follows 1 second later. Iranian vessel, alter course now. You are operating unsafely near a United States warship. The warning is repeated in English, then again, this time in a short operational Persian phrase from the aircrew's prepared script. The lead boat wavers as it hits the helicopter's rotor wash. For the first time all morning, its bow drifts a few degrees away from the destroyer's line. Not much, but enough. Yet while every eye on the bridge stays locked on the boats, the real shift is happening below in CIC. The electronic warfare officer goes still in his chair. New emission, same coastal sector. He listens, watches, checks it again. Then he says it slowly, clearly. The lead craft is radiating now. Short-range surface search. Wait, no. Tracking behavior. A pause. He's tracking the helo. For 1 second, nobody speaks. That is the mistake. Close passes are one thing. Unsafe maneuvering is another. But actively tracking a U.S. Navy helicopter at close range in the middle of a live standoff changes the entire situation. That is no longer just pressure. That is targeting behavior. On the bridge, the captain's voice stays calm. Arm-layered defense, request authority for a visible warning measure. Keep the helicopter on him. The Seahawk banks tighter, camera locked. Laser steady, every second time-stamped and recorded. Below deck, the heavier systems remain quiet. The forward mounts remain quiet. The ship still holds course. But the Strait of Hormuz feels smaller now. Because this is no longer just 3 Iranian boats trying to shake a destroyer. Now one of them is tracking back. 5:24 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The destroyer is no longer looking at 3 boats. It is looking at a system. Inside CIC, the surface tracks remain tight on the display, but the wider picture finally begins to come together. 3 Iranian fast craft are holding off the starboard side. A larger contact sits farther north, outside the immediate pressure line, moving at a measured speed that makes little tactical sense unless it is there to observe, relay, or command. And behind all of it, along the coast, the same radar sector keeps pulsing with disciplined regularity. Not random, not background noise. This is not freelance harassment. This is coordinated pressure. The Seahawk stays low over the water, offset from the lead Iranian craft, nose slightly down, camera fixed. Every few seconds, the helicopter rocks in the disturbed air coming off the chop and the boat's own wake. Inside the cockpit, the pilot keeps his hands steady. The sensor operator does not look away from the screen. The green visual marker remains non-harmful, visible and firm against the Iranian bridge glass. A bright reminder that every movement is now being watched and recorded. Below, the lead craft keeps its bow high, but it no longer charges with the same confidence. Its wake shortens. The second boat widens again, less certain now. The third continues to hang aft, still trying to preserve an angle. Then the first American aircraft check in. The call comes through the circuit, clean and clipped, almost too calm for the moment. Fast Eagle on station. On the destroyer's bridge, nobody cheers. Nobody even looks up. But the effect is immediate. On the combat display, 2 friendly air tracks appear from the south, moving fast and dropping into the area with enough speed to make one thing clear. They are not here for appearance. Whether they came from a carrier deck farther out or from a planned patrol already near the lane does not matter to the sailors on the ship. What matters is simple. They are here now, and the balance has changed. The tactical action officer updates the captain. 2 aircraft overhead in under 1 minute. Helo remains visual, surface contact still active, coastal emitters still tracking intermittently. The captain gives the order without hesitation. Bring close-in defense to active track. Keep long-range systems cold. No one engages unless there is a confirmed hostile act or clear release. That line matters. The ship is moving deeper into defense, but it is still not escalating first. Inside CIC, the weapons team acknowledges. The close-in defense system shifts from readiness to active tracking. Servo motors hum. The logic tightens. The forward deck system remains trained to starboard, silent but fully committed now. Electronic warfare begins feeding countermeasure options into the tactical loop. Nothing is released. Nothing is jammed aggressively. But the destroyer is no longer only watching the encounter. It is shaping it. Outside, the first American jet flashes overhead, not low enough to provoke, low enough to be understood. A dark shape cuts across the pale morning sky, banks wide over the strait, then turns back in a clean arc that places American air power directly above the cluster of Iranian boats. A second jet follows offset, keeping enough distance to cover the entire box. From the deck of the lead Iranian craft, the message is clear. They are no longer crowding one destroyer. They are standing beneath a layered response. The Seahawk crew notices the shift before the bridge does. The second Iranian boat begins to drift away, first by only a few degrees, then a little more. Its crew starts looking upward instead of ahead. One man near the forward mount lifts an arm, either pointing toward the jets or signaling back to the wheelhouse. The third boat slows by half a knot, then another. Tiny changes, but in close water standoffs, tiny changes say a lot. Only the lead craft continues to press, not as aggressively as before, but enough. Back inside CIC, another update cuts through the circuit. Air picture remains clear. No Iranian aircraft airborne. Larger surface contact still north. Coastal radar still active. Recommend maintaining pressure. The destroyer's captain studies the plot for half a second longer than before. He is no longer watching only the boat. He is watching the chain behind it, the lead craft, the outer craft, the larger vessel, the radar ashore, the timing of the radio calls, the way the tracking behavior appeared only after the helicopter entered the box. That is the picture now, layer against layer. Then the shoreline changes the equation again. The electronic warfare officer turns in his chair, one hand still on the console. Emission spike. Same coastal sector, narrower beam. Could be queuing, could be preparing a higher quality track. No one needs that translated. The bridge gets quieter, not louder. That is what real danger sounds like on a warship. Fewer wasted words, less motion, more focus. The fighters come around for another pass, not diving, not provoking, just taking control of the airspace above the encounter. The Seahawk widens its orbit slightly to keep space, but stays locked on the lead craft. The destroyer holds course through Hormuz, wake straight, bow steady, showing every camera, every radar, and every watchstander on both sides the same thing. The U.S. ship is not turning away. On the Iranian side, uncertainty is beginning to spread. But the situation is not easing. Not yet. Because now the coast is involved in a way it was not 3 minutes earlier. Now the boats are no longer acting alone. Now the radar ashore feels like part of the pressure. And in the Strait of Hormuz, once the coastline joins the equation, every second becomes heavier than the one before. 5:27 local time. Strait of Hormuz. The line nearly breaks on the water. It happens so fast that nobody on the bridge is fully sure what they saw at first. The lead Iranian fast craft surges up along the destroyer's starboard side, its bow hammering through its own wake. Then something flashes near the forward mount. A sharp burst. A low streak over the water. A second later, white spray erupts off the destroyer's starboard beam, close enough to throw mist across the lower bridge windows. Not an impact. Not something anyone is willing to dismiss. Inside CIC, 3 voices come in at once. Splash starboard side, possible warning discharge. No confirmed launch from shore. The captain does not ask which one it was. At this distance, with the coastline active and fast boats crowding the ship, the difference between a warning and a mistake is no longer useful. Either way, the line has been crossed. Shift to full defensive posture, he says. Weapons tight, hold for authority. The destroyer responds instantly. The close-in defense mount rotates hard to starboard and locks into active tracking. The forward deck system completes its traverse and settles directly onto the lead boat's sector. Below deck, crews stand ready, one order away from turning the entire geometry of the morning into something no one can take back. On the bridge, the officer of the deck keeps the ship steady. Even now, especially now. Because if the destroyer turns sharply inside the channel, everything behind her compresses. Merchant traffic loses spacing, angles collapse, and the entire transit can unravel into chaos. Outside, the Seahawk breaks its low orbit immediately. The pilot pulls wider and climbs, moving outside the danger envelope while keeping the lead Iranian craft in sight. In the cabin, the sensor operator zooms in on the boat's forward deck, searching for smoke, flash, residue, anything that can confirm what just left that mount. Negative confirmed guided launch, he calls. Possible unguided round or warning discharge. Multiple personnel still topside. The fighters overhead respond next. Fast Eagle copies dangerous splash. Pushing lower. One jet drops altitude in a smooth, controlled descent. Not to strike, not to provoke, but to dominate the airspace so completely that every person on every Iranian deck has to look up. The second jet stays higher and offset, covering the entire box. No release, no dramatic radio call, no unnecessary announcement. Just speed, position, and unmistakable presence. On the water, the formation finally begins to break. The second Iranian boat, the one that had widened earlier, turns away first. Its bow drifts offline and its wake flattens as the pilot bleeds speed. The third boat hesitates aft, trapped between holding the bracket and leaving before the Americans decide that the splash was enough. Only the lead craft remains dangerously committed, still close, still aggressive, still moving hard, but no longer in control of the scene it started. Then the shoreline enters the circuit again. The electronic warfare officer's voice comes sharper now. Coastal emitter stronger, short burst, possible queuing radar, still no confirmed launch. The words settle heavily inside CIC. The destroyer is now managing 2 pressure layers at once. Fast craft close enough to see through the glass, and a coastal system that may be feeding targeting data from farther inland. That is how a close water confrontation turns into something far more serious. Not with one clear signal, with stacked uncertainty. Water, radar, timing, poor choices. The captain makes his next move. Request authority for full defensive response if coastal tracking continues. Visible warning measures are on the table. Keep every sensor recording. No one misunderstands the meaning. This is now measured in seconds. Seconds from collision, seconds from response. On the lead Iranian boat, the pressure finally shows. Through the destroyer's optics, one crewman near the forward mount ducks low. Another turns back toward the wheelhouse and gestures sharply with both arms. The boat's nose swings left, then snaps back. For one dangerous moment, it looks as if the pilot cannot decide whether to push through or break away. The Seahawk circles wider, camera still fixed. The lower fighter screams across the top of the engagement area, fast enough to shake spray from the wave tops. It does not release anything. It does not need to. The pass cuts across the morning like a drawn blade. And then, suddenly, the lead Iranian craft loses its nerve. Its bow swings hard to starboard. The wake, which had been driving straight and narrow toward the destroyer, bends into a white crescent away from the ship. The third boat follows almost immediately, turning out and aft. The second, already drifting away, commits fully and opens the distance. The bracket is gone. But the danger is not. The coastal radar still pulses from ashore. The larger Iranian contact north of the scene remains in place, watching, holding, perhaps relaying, perhaps waiting to see whether the Americans will act against withdrawing boats and hand Tehran the image it wanted. They do not. The destroyer holds her line. That is the discipline of it. Defensive systems trained. Aircraft overhead. Helicopter offset. Crew ready to answer with decisive force. And still, the ship refuses to be the first one to lose control. On the bridge, nobody relaxes yet. Not after the splash. Not with the coast still active behind the boats. The captain watches the lead craft widen the gap and says only one sentence. They push to the edge. He does not finish the thought. He does not need to. Everyone on the bridge, inside CIC, in the Seahawk, and above in the fighters, already knows what was waiting on the other side of that edge. And for one long second over the Strait of Hormuz, Iran saw it too, 5:34 local time. Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian boats are opening distance now, not quickly at first, not as a clean, obvious retreat. The lead craft, the same one that had pushed the hardest and come the closest, keeps its bow angled just enough to preserve appearances. The second boat has already moved out into safer water. The third, the one that had lingered aft trying to keep the bracket alive, finally gives up the angle and slips away from the destroyer's quarter. On the surface, it almost looks controlled, professional even, but the geometry tells the truth. The trap is gone. Inside CIC, the surface picture begins to open back up by degrees. The closest point of approach starts climbing instead of shrinking. 1.8, 2.4, 3.1, small numbers on a screen. But on a morning like this, they feel like air returning to the room. No one says that out loud. The captain remains on the bridge, eyes forward. One glance at the repeater, one glance through the glass, then back to the horizon where the strait narrows into heat and haze. The destroyer has not changed course. It has not reduced speed. It has not surrendered a single yard of water. That matters. Above the ship, the fighters remain in orbit. One high, one lower, both holding the box with quiet authority. The Seahawk stays wide and offset now, no longer pressing the lead boat, but still watching. Still recording. Still close enough to remind every man on those Iranian hulls that nothing from this morning exists only as a memory. Everything is on record. Surface contacts increasing separation. CIC reports. The tactical action officer answers without emotion. Continue track. The electronic warfare officer is still listening to the coastline. The shore-based emitter that had sharpened and pulsed throughout the standoff now begins to lose intensity. Not all at once. First a sweep, then a pause. Then another weaker sweep. Then longer gaps between them. We're seeing reduced power from the coastal sector, he says. Still active. Less aggressive. Again, nobody takes too much comfort from it. In Hormuz, a radar quieting down does not mean peace. It only means one phase is ending. On the flight deck, the crew stays ready. No one is standing down yet. Tie-down teams wait near their stations. Defense crews remain sealed in. The smell of fuel and hot metal hangs in the air beneath the steady vibration of the destroyer moving through the channel. Farther below-deck teams remain at posture. The forward deck system stays trained off starboard. The close-in defense system remains awake, tracking without engaging, like an animal still alert after the threat has begun backing away. That is how a real warship settles after the edge. Not by relaxing. By refusing to assume the danger is finished just because it is moving away. The lead Iranian craft turns another few degrees. Now, the withdrawal is unmistakable. Through the optics feed, the men who had stood near the forward mount are no longer squared toward the destroyer. One is seated, another has turned aft, speaking into a handset or radio. The motion is smaller now, less swagger, less intent. The second and third boats have already drifted far enough apart that no one could mistake them for a coordinated pressure pattern anymore. Whatever the plan was, it is over, but the Americans have seen enough. That may be the most important part of the morning. Iran did not damage the ship. It did not force the destroyer out of the lane. It did not compel an American turn. It did not draw the kind of rushed response that could be used against them later. Instead, in less than 20 minutes, they revealed their timing, their small boat coordination, their communication rhythm, their shoreline radar behavior, and the exact point where pressure shifted into active tracking. Every burst, every sweep, every dangerous move. Logged, time-stamped, cross-referenced, stored. That is the kind of mistake that lasts longer than spray on the water. The captain finally gives the order to ease one layer of posture. Maintain track, step down incrementally, keep air overhead. It is not a dramatic command. It is not meant to be. On a ship like this, survival is not celebrated. It is expected. Discipline is the point. Inside CIC, the callouts continue at a lower rhythm now, but they do not stop. The larger Iranian contact that had been sitting north of the scene remains on the scope. Farther out, still watching. The fighters overhead continue their measured turns. The Seahawk begins working back toward the destroyer, not because the situation is forgotten, but because the message has been delivered and the evidence has been collected. Back on the bridge, the morning light is fully up now. Merchant ships continue moving through the strait. The destroyer continues forward. Same heading, same transit, same mission. And maybe that is the clearest answer of the entire morning. No speech, no dramatic broadcast, no unnecessary display, no move made for cameras. Iran applied pressure. The United States answered immediately, but not with panic, not with noise, and not with loss of control. It answered with layers, with discipline, with presence, with enough visible strength to end the encounter without letting the encounter control the ship. Behind the starboard quarter, the Iranian boats keep falling away. The coastal radar slowly fades back into the background. Ahead of the bow, the Strait of Hormuz opens slightly, but nobody on board confuses quiet water with safety. Not here. Places like this do not give second chances for poor decisions. One flash from a forward mount, one burst of spray beside the hull, one coastal radar sweep that tightens a little too far. That is all it takes for a tense morning to become something much larger. And this morning, Iran came right up to that line, looked across it, and stepped back just in time. The destroyer never had to.